Also in action over the weekend was the hurlers. They were below in Tralee against Kerry. Again, a fairly one-sided game. I think it's fair to say. Finished 25 points to 9. It was close for the first 20 minutes. I think it's fair to say Kerry gave as good as they got. I think it was 4-all. Owen Ross got his second score. Two nice long-range scores, but I think Limerick scored the next 8 points to move 12-4 ahead. It was 13-5 at the break, and never really looked troubled from there on in. I know that we're gonna touch more on individual players because there wasn't much to take from the game, but like there wasn't really much to take from the game. I think it's fair to say I'm trying to think of a way to flower it up, but Limerick got the job done. I don't think they'll learn a whole lot from it.
Jack, there's no sugarcoating it. This was a dead rubber game. It was you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, And it was one of those contests, but it gave John Kiely an opportunity to see players in an inter-county setting and to give a very valuable game time to some of his fringe players as he mulls over the team that he will name to go to Cork for the first round of the league on Saturday week. But as a game, Jack, I would say it was probably a non-event, which, it was a classical dead rubber. But Limerick went through the motions, but they went through them pretty well. And we had debutants like Jimmy Quilty, who I thought did quite well. There were one or two more that made a first start for Conor O'Grady. Conor O'Grady has made 2 appearances now, will probably be happy with himself. And you just had a few things like that. But one player that stood out for me in Cork and stood out for me and again in Austin Stack Park was Mark Quinlan. Jack, I taught him. It's glad. I'm so glad, and I think we spoke about this in the last couple of weeks ago about him, he's a player I'm glad to see getting his chance, and I'll tell you, I thought over the 2 games he considerably enhanced his reputation.
Oh, 100%.
Now, Colin Coughlin coming on and getting 4 points. Now we know what Colin Coughlin is all about. Just a fantastic player, an All-Ireland winner on the field in 2020, and he's a guy that's going to be knocking on John Kiely's door for a place going forward.
Yeah, firstly on Mark, from seeing him with that double winning Gary Spillane minor side, you said the talent was always there, but he's been hampered with injuries. I think he started against Kerry last year, and that's all we saw of him. He went off within the first 15 minutes. Paddy Loughlin replaced him. We didn't see him again. So it's brilliant to see Mark back. He definitely has all the talent. He got 3 points from play. Colin Coughlin got 4 from play. Now, to be fair to Colin, he was completely unmarked for nearly all of them, but he scored from well inside his own half. And with Diarmuid Burns away for, I don't know how many rounds Diarmuid's going to be gone for. You'd imagine he's going to be gone for the first couple, if not maybe the bones of the league. There is a place in that half back line, for one of those lads. There's obviously players behind him, probably more established players. You could have Kyle back there, or Dan could move out there. But, these new players are taking their chances when they're being afforded to them.
Yeah, but you have 2 guys there putting up their hand for Dermot's number 5 shirt,
a weighty shirt to be wearing.
And you're rightly said. And look, my thinking is not conditioned at all, Jack, by the fact that Mark Quinlan got 3 points and Colin Coughlin got 4. I'm talking about their performance overall, and I thought Mark Quinlan laid down a marker, particularly in Park Erin the previous week.
Yeah, he's a very comfortable player. He's the sort of wing back that will accept the ball wherever he is. There's a few times he had his back to the sideline, and there was Cork players surrounding him, but he was a willing outlet, and he gives it off quickly. He's a fine hurler. Like, he's a very good hurler in the fact that he's very comfortable on the ball. He's a brilliant striker. He's good vision. He's our modern day wing back. Was there anyone else that kind of stood out for you in these games? Because outside of Dan Morrissey, Darragh Donovan, and Dave Reedy, none of the rest of the Munster Hurling League players even featured in last year's All-Ireland final.
Yeah, well, dare we say it again, or dare we mention it again against Cork? I thought Shane O'Brien,
Yeah.
um, we can rightly point with certain justification to say we told you so, um, because I thought Shane O'Brien definitely put down a marker, Jack. You're talking about a young player here, a young player that Jack. I under, is it a fact was he eligible for Hartley Cup again this year?
But he's gone from school.
He's gone from school, but I was told last weekend in Kilmallock when I was out at the Hartley Cup game that if they only had Shane O'Brien, who was eligible again this year. So you're talking about a very young player, Jack, who has who has. We saw how seamlessly he made the transition from underage to senior hurling in the Limerick Championship, and were it not for that injury that blighted him against Doon, which I think a small bit derailed his season. And now he has made the same transition from underage intercounty to senior intercounty. I didn't think he looked one bit out of place. Another player, of course, Jack, that and you have been waxing lyrical about him last year, and rightly so. Was I thought we had a couple of very, very tidy performances in the Munster League by Fergal O'Connor.
Yeah. That's who I would be probably pointing to if I was to pick out one individual from the Munster Hurling League. I'm not really surprised, to be honest, but again, a player that is fighting for a position that is probably somewhat open at the moment, in the fact that Mike Casey probably won't be there for the start of the league. Now he'll have Rich English to cope with, but the fact that Sean Finn and Barry Nash are almost guaranteed championship starters, they might be rested during the league. There is an opening back there now. Aaron Costello in the other corner was exceptionally good. He's probably more of an out-and-out defender. He did manage to get a point, and he played midfield for Kilmallock. But I think one-on-one defending, there's very few as good as Aaron. But I think Fergal is probably a more complete hurler. He is well plays midfield for his club, but he's probably more accustomed to getting on the score sheet, and again a modern type hurler. But I think Fergal was very good. Kieran Barry played a wing back for the full game against Cork, played a wing back for the first half against Kerry, and then went in the corner back. And again, he was very solid, did nothing wrong, very composed at the ball. Again, I think you have to be composed at the ball in modern day hurling, but there was a couple of lads in defence I thought that really stood out. The forwards probably found it a bit more tough to get going. Micheál Hoolan got a quick fire brace, but was relatively quiet outside of that. Conor Grady got his 2 scores, but again, didn't do much outside of that. Barry Murphy got on the score sheet, but I think we just found it tougher, and I think the backs were where we saw a lot of improvement in the Munster Hurling League.
Yeah, Kieran Barry had a decent Munster League. It was great to see Pat Ryan back. I think he might be a small bit short of intercounty level at this stage, but that will come and come quickly. And if you allow me, Jack, to be parochial for just 1 minute, in the race to succeed Barry Hennessy as, I suppose, standing goalkeeper, deputy to Nicky Quaid, my own clubmate David McCarthy kept 2 clean sheets in the Munster League. I know he made way for Jamie Power, an All-Ireland winner with Monaghan, to come on in the closing stages against Kerry. But there are a lot of positives there, an awful lot of positives. But how many of the new faces that we saw during the Munster League will make their way into the team for Saturday week in Cork, Jack?
We'll suspect very few. Speculate. Yeah, we'll have to speculate on that one next week. But to finish the hurling,
I'm not being premature now, but in summation to what we've seen in Tralee, I suspect very few.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to give those lads, they got their break after the holiday. They'll be raring to go. They'll be raring to go this week as they prepare for Cork. And Cork is always a big one as a Munster derby. But we'll leave the speculating to
But
next week.
Jack, you must remember, if you look at this universally and globally now, when Limerick kick off their National League campaign on Saturday week, it's not much more than 10 weeks to the Munster Senior Hurling Championship.
Yeah, no, it's a very quick turnaround, and those players will be looking to get going with a bang. But I think Limerick last year
I think a lot of the big ones will be rolled out, and I think you might see cameo appearance from Keane Lynch, that sort of thing, But look, that's for next week, Jack.